Hi, friends. Today I'd like to talk to you about letting the perfect be the enemy of the good. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, the perfect is this abstract idea that we are going to be the best writer, artist, musician, teacher, motocross person, whatever you want, YouTuber, whatever you want to do. And before we start, we always have this idea that eventually I'm going to be awesome. I'm going to be the best in my field. And people are going to look at my talent and they're going to say, wow, what a prodigy. So back in high school, I wrote a book called The Crisis Pendant. I was actually able to publish it through basically paying some money. It wasn't necessarily self-publishing, but it was because I paid somebody to have it printed and everything. And it was, professional quality and everything. I actually was pretty pleased because I paid, quite a bit of money to have it done, at least a lot of money for a high schooler. But the problem is the book was, written by a 14-year-old basically. And it was about Hitler coming back from the dead. And, it was more like a video game Call of Duty kind of plot than any like sort of true satire or like a commentary on like neo-fascism or anything like that. It wasn't as nuanced as, something that I would learn in like college, for example, right? But when I was writing it, I really, had this idea that I was going to be like a stupendous writer. Like people were going to be amazed at my ability so young to be like, wow, he's just like Paolini, right? The guy who wrote Aragon. And I really wanted to be this prodigy. And for a little bit of time when I first published, I was a junior in high school, and for like a few days, I was pretty popular. I went to a pretty small high school, like a couple hundred kids in the whole school. But I was kind of the talk of the town for a little bit, and that felt really awesome. I had a couple local book signings at our bookstore there in town, and really got to feel really well accomplished. And then, as word got out and as people read the book, I think they're like, oh, this is all right. It's okay. And then I talked to some people who maybe read more books, and they didn't really like it. And that really hurt my ego a lot because, up until that point, I had all this feedback that I was doing exceptional work. Which, writing a book, yeah, when you're that young is exceptional. But then I kept writing, and I never had um, another hit. I guess I never published anything else after that. And I tried. I've written probably 6 or 7 manuscripts, which is not a lot, but it's more than the average person. But I think for professional writers, like that's like beginning stages. I'm watching some Brandon Sanderson lecture videos, and I've read Stephen King's On Writing, and just listened to like George R.R. Martin. Of course, he like takes forever to write books, so I don't know. Maybe I have a lot in common with him, other than having a hit series and stuff like that. But anyway, the reason I have been struggling to write my whole life is because I'm just trying to be amazing. I'm trying to do something that is worthy of people's time. So why do I talk about that? Well, it felt like a failure looking back in retrospect. I really shouldn't have published my first manuscript. That was like a mistake, right? But in a way, it's really allowed me to open up and be more vulnerable about my craft, which is to say that craft is something that will be filled with turmoil and pride, love and suffering. It has everything. And I think whatever you end up deciding to throw your weight behind ends up giving you a lens to understand life a little bit more. Like, so for example, I think about my life a lot in terms of narrative and like the hero's journey, like a Joseph Campbell framework. If you've ever read Joseph Campbell's Hero with a Thousand Faces, it goes into depth about the monomyth, which is this universal idea that all stories kind of are, circular for one, but largely the same, right? And, I think you can get into the nitty gritty and be like, well, it's not exactly the same or whatever. But the monomyth is relevant to your own life, right? And it happens multiple times, right? Different eras of our life. I think we can look back and really study our lives to understand the narrative meaning, but not until after they've happened, because we largely don't know what's happening right now, right? I have no idea what tomorrow's going to bring, but I know that I have right now, and maybe right now will be more relevant tomorrow when I think back. But it's hard to say being so close to life. So I wanted to give you permission to start something and to not be very good at it, because I think we always want to be exceptional. And when you start something, we're going to be afraid of sucking really badly, right? Like me putting out videos like this, I'm not that great. I don't edit. I'm sure there's things I could do that would improve it to, increase viewer retention. But I don't really know what I'm doing, right? I'm just kind of getting up here and talking. So whatever it is you want to do, if there's some anxiety and fear about starting that, give yourself the permission to feel that and to recognize that that doesn't disqualify you from being eventually great. What actually disqualifies you from being great is never starting in the first place, right? They say failure is never trying, right? People who succeed have failed endlessly, but eventually they don't. And they make it, right? That's the dream. So what if you try your whole life and you still fail? What if you get just good at something, but not great, right? Because the amount of effort it takes to get good at something is significantly less than it takes to be great at something, right? These like upper tier people who are the best at what they do, whether that's like Mr. Beast on YouTube or Stephen King or in writing or, Picasso in art or whatever. These people, I just named 3 men. Sorry, women. If you want to be like Agatha Christie, right? Or you want to be, I guess, J.K. Rowling. But I don't know. She's kind of controversial depending on, your political leanings and stuff. But if you want to be a great artist, you just have to have faith in yourself that what you're doing is good enough for you in that moment. Greatness is largely given to you by other people, and you can't give greatness to yourself, and you really don't want it either. I think people just want to be competent enough at something so that they can tell themselves and others that they do it and that they are that, right? I've written enough that I can call myself a writer, yet I also feel kind of like a fraud because I'm not that great of a writer, despite having done it for, 11 or 12 years. I don't know how long it's been. A long time. And, oh gosh, no, I think it's like 15 years. Oh, no. Okay, that's way longer. But anyway, I'm not as great as I thought I was going to be in the beginning. So whatever it is you're stuck with, whatever it is you're doing, or whatever it is you're thinking about doing, whether it's something as simple as picking up a new hobby, wanting to make clothing, wanting to write, wanting to paint, wanting to be better at talking to people, starting a YouTube channel. The most important thing is you just start and you recognize that you're going to have failures, but to recognize also that failure is the process. Failure is about perspective, right? Give yourself permission not to fail, but to learn. When we think about kids in school, we're always rushing them along. Oh, you don't get this new math concept? Oh, like you don't have time to learn it because we have to move everybody on. The beautiful thing about becoming your own person and giving yourself kindness and patience is that you can eventually understand something because there is no pressure to learn a new craft outside of your willingness to do so. There's no grade. There's no assessment. There's none of that. Give yourself permission to slow down and do what you want to do today. Don't waste time. Don't think about 10 years from now. Don't think about being the greatest because it's never been about being perfect or great. It's always about just doing it. Just do it. Just do it. But for real, if you can just start, for example, if you want to make a YouTube channel and you're like, I want to make it about this, just make a first video. You're probably not going to see a lot of success. And if you are, congratulations, that's awesome. But when you get that kickback and you realize, oh man, maybe I'm not that great at this, you realize it's not the end of the world because you can always do another part of that process, whether it's make a new painting, write a new manuscript, revise an old one, do a new video, whatever it is. Just start one step. One step. That's all I'm asking. And once you have that step and you realize the pain of failure isn't actually that bad, what you're afraid of is not eventually being great. So you're stopping yourself before you're even getting started. Like being with yourself, like being kind with yourself, it takes just one moment. Okay? We're going to slip back and we're going to continuously fall. But like the Alfred said, he said, "Why do we fall, Master Wayne? To pick ourselves back up." But it's true. You've always picked yourself back up. And whatever it is you start, whether that's an instrument, any craft, music, I guess I'm obsessed with music. But whatever you start, it's okay. Give yourself permission to learn. Thank you for watching. I love you. See you in the next one.